Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Soul Land 2 Part 269 based on novel. So let's start. Elder Long, how are you? Huo Yuhao hurriedly lifted Long Xiaoyao up. Long Xiaoyao smiled and replied, I'm fine. Couldn't be better. During the process of transferring my soul power to you, I got everything clear in my head. There are no more regrets in my life. Shishui is right. I can finally leave without any regrets. The only person I've let down is your teacher. Now, I'm passing all my cultivation to you. I shall consider it my repayment to him. Go and do whatever you want. The Holy Ghost Church should indeed not exist in this world. Don't have any misgivings. You must quickly cultivate and control the soul power in your body. When you finish adjusting yourself, you can charge towards your third soul core. Remember, don't be anxious. The only path you can take is space. You can only complete your third soul core if you understand the profundity of space. Both of you need to complement and protect each other in order to succeed. I hope that both of you will become the first cases of humans with 3 soul cores. In that way, you won't waste the guidance that Mu En and I have given you. Yes, Elder. Huo Yuhao respectfully acknowledged his words. He was both sympathetic of and inspired by Long Xiaoyao. However, he didn't fully agree with his methods. No matter what, he had aided the Holy Ghost Church's development for his own selfish reasons, his relationship with Yi Shishui. However, Long Xiaoyao was already on the brink of death. There was no need to continue blaming him for anything. Furthermore, he had helped him a lot too. Elder Long, do you have any last wishes? Huo Yuhao asked softly. Long Xiaoyao shook his head. No, I'm about to leave this world. I'm finally free. If there's a next life, it'll be great if Shishui and I were just ordinary people. Shishui. After hearing his call, Yi Shishui gradually flew over. She landed above him, and her gentle projection seemed to fuse with his body. A gust of wind blew. Long Xiaoyao's body flew up just like that, and seemed to turn into countless butterflies. Slowly, it turned into powder and dissipated. Only countless spots of light charged into the sky. There were black and golden spots that entangled with one another as they rose into the air. Huo Yuhao and Tang Wutong watched as these spots of light rose into the sky. Both of them bowed down. No matter what they had done in the past, they were already transcendent in this world. They deserved this respect. Moreover, they had also passed all the power they had left to Huo Yuhao and Tang Wutong. In the future, whatever good deeds that he and Tang Wutong performed could be considered as helping to atone for their sins. 2 ultimate Dolor. Gone. Just like that. It's unimaginable. I'm afraid Elder Xian is the only ultimate Dolor on the continent now. Tang Wutong said heavily. Huo Yuhao smiled and said, don't be anxious. In the near future, we'll become ultimate Dolor too. Even though the process won't be simple, I'm confident with you by my side. Yes. Tang Wutong gave him a sweet smile. Her body's condition was exactly the same as his right now. She was even faring a little better than him. Yi Shishui didn't lie. All her abilities that were related to evil soul masters had disappeared during that massive explosion. The soul power of the Radiant Phoenix was also light type. It was fully compatible with Tang Wutong, which made the entire fusion process abnormally smooth. The outline of Tang Wutong's third soul core had already formed. To allow it to accept the space element, Yi Shishui only left a part of the light element inside her third soul core. This was to aid Tang Wutong in her control over it. I'm afraid we can't unleash our Haodong power in the future. Tang Wutong twisted her lips and appeared a little displeased. Huo Yuhao smiled and said, that's because we're already close to the peak of this world. However, we should still be able to use our fusion skills. If you don't believe me, we can find someone to test them on. Tang Wutong was confused as she looked at him. She asked, find who? Shu Tianran? Huo Yuhao replied, now that Radiant City is on alert, It's not the time to touch Xu Tianran. You've also seen it. He's too powerful. It's not good for us to be there right now. When we were still in Radiant City, Elder Long gave me a simplified map. I finally understand where the Holy Ghost Church's headquarters is. Before he died, the last words he told me were that we can deal with the Holy Ghost Church however we want. Headquarters? Where is it? Tang Wutong asked, astonished. Now that Yi Shishui and Long Xiaoyao were both dead, Zhong Liwu was the strongest in the church. Hui Yuhao had already defeated him before he became a transcendent Dalor. Right now, it would naturally be even easier for him. Destroying the Holy Ghost Church was indeed of paramount importance now. Tang Wutong was a little excited as she said, "What are we waiting for then? Let's go." Rank 98. She and Hui Yuhao were both rank 98 Transcendent Dalor now. Who was a better enemy for them to test their skills than the Holy Ghost Church? Both of them leaped up at the same time. They were still holding each other's hands, even though their Haodong power no longer flowed between them. They rose straight into the sky before picking up speed. They didn't need any soul tools now. Their soul power quickly circulated in their bodies. They were controlling the air. 2 sonic blasts rang out in the sky before they both disappeared. Sun Moon Empire. Radiant City. Any discoveries? Xu Tianran asked. Zhu Zi nodded and replied, "We've activated everyone. We didn't find any clues though. The Holy Ghost Church's headquarters is too mysteriously located. I only know the rough location. According to Yi Shishui, the Holy Ghost Church should be moving, but I'm not sure what their current situation is. I've already sent the army to search in that direction. I hope we can find them." Okay. Xu Tianran nodded. He still looked very grim. Up until now, he still couldn't verify that Yi Shishui and Long Xiaoyao were both dead. Their deaths were simply too crucial. If they were alive and took revenge anytime soon, the Sun Moon Empire would be in big trouble. I didn't expect Ultimate Dolor to be so powerful. There's even a possibility that they aren't dead. It seems like I've really underestimated Soul Masters. No wonder Shrek Academy could be successful for so many years. This is the foundation of Soul Masters. It's a pity we don't have such talents or opportunities. If I wasn't hurt then, perhaps I might have stood a chance. But now, I don't. This time, if both of them are dead, I'm afraid Elder Xian from the Sea God's Pavilion is the only remaining Ultimate Dolor. I wonder when the Sun Moon Empire will have its own Ultimate Dolor. When that happens, we'll be really strong. Zhu Zi smiled. She walked over and gently massaged his head. It won't be long before that happens. When your majesty rules the entire continent, will you still be scared that you can't nurture an ultimate Dolor, given the resources of the entire Dolor continent? Xu Tianran relaxed a little. He gently patted Zhu Zi's hand and said, "Well said. You can go prepare now. I'll give you half a year's time, and the entire army. Deploy all resources. When we attack again, I want the remaining 2 empires to be completely wiped out. Your greatest enemy is also in the Star Luo Empire. When are you planning to deal with them?" Zhu Zi's eyes turned cold, and she replied, "I'll leave them for last. I want him to watch as his empire is trampled by the Sun Moon Empire's army. I want him to live in excruciating pain before he finally dies." "Ha ha, good. Well said. Let him suffer in pain before dying." Xu Tianran laughed. Flying at high speed and controlling the air to propel oneself were 2 different concepts. Hui Yuhao and Tang Wutong had this same thought right now. At rank 98, they didn't need to drain their own soul power to fly anymore. They were completely relying on the air to move their bodies according to their wishes. As long as their bodies could take it, their speed was limitless. Even they didn't know how fast they could go. However, they felt as if they were moving thousands of kilometers in an instant. The scenery below them changed very quickly. When they passed through clouds, they would automatically dissipate. It was as if the clouds were giving way to them. From afar, Hui Yuhao saw the mountain range below him, and was astonished. "We're here so quickly." We will be at our destination very soon. Wutong, our abilities are probably at the tier of an ultimate Dolor. Oh? How do you know that? Tang Wutong asked Hui Yuhao curiously. Hui Yuhao said, don't forget. We already have yin-yang complement soul cores. Along the way, I've been trying to understand our control of the air. We were already rank 95 Transcendent Dolor earlier, but the feeling is different now. This means that it's not just our soul power that increased. We were enhanced. What can enhance us to such a tier? Only if we are Ultimate Dolor. This also means that we are as strong as Ultimate Dolor, even though we've not yet reached rank 99. We're even Ultimate Dolor with Yin-Yang complement soul cores. Tang Wutong sighed slightly and said, I might have thought the same thing if it was before I met Elder Long and Yi Shishui. However, I beg to differ now. Ultimate Dolor have their own killer moves. They have their own understanding of this world. Perhaps our cultivations might have reached that tier, but we cannot consider Ultimate Dolor before we develop our own understanding. That's why we must continue to work harder. We'll definitely be able to reach that tier. When that happens, the world will be very different. Hui Yuhao laughed as he said, well said. I'll always be with you no matter what. We'll charge towards that tier and that world. No matter what, his cultivation was already similar to that of an ultimate Dolor. How could he not be excited? It was what he had been pursuing all this while. We're almost there. Let me check. Hui Yuhao controlled their speed as he held Tang Wutong's hand. He slowed down. He had indeed been to this place before. The dense forest in front of him turned from dark green to pitch black. In the entire continent, only this forest had such a special characteristic. It was because this was the evil demon forest. Yes, the Holy Ghost Church's headquarters was in this forest. If not for the information provided by Long Xiaoyao, no one would have guessed this. In the Sun Moon Empire, the evil demon forest was like the Great Star Do forest in the Dolor continent. The strongest soul beasts that lived in the Sun Moon Empire were in this forest. This included Evil Eye Tyrant King, ranked second among the 10 great savage beasts. Hui Yuhao had obtained the 7th soul ring of his spirit eyes here. He had killed 100,000-year Evil Eye Tyrant, before he was discovered by the Evil Eye Tyrant King and barely escaped death. He was different from how he was in the past right now. This time, he might not be afraid of those Evil Eye Tyrants anymore. However, what he didn't understand was why the Holy Ghost Church had located their headquarters here. It was no issue for those powerful evil soul masters. But what about the weaker evil soul masters? When they faced powerful soul beasts, their lives would be in danger. No matter what, it was good enough if he could find evil soul masters here. Without the protection of the death god Dolor, no one here could stop them anymore. When he landed, Hui Yuhao had already unleashed his spiritual detection. It was like a huge web that engulfed the entire forest. Long Xiaoyao had only told him about the evil demon forest. He didn't specify exactly where the Holy Ghost Church was in the forest. When Hui Yuhao surveyed the forest, he was very cautious. After all, there was a savage beast living here who was only inferior to Di Qian in the world of soul beasts. It was best not to offend the Evil Eye Tyrant King. It would help him avoid any unwanted trouble. Hui Yuhao had once swore that he wouldn't kill another soul beast unless he was attacked. This was why he wasn't going to provoke the Evil Eye Tyrant King, even though he wasn't afraid of him. His spiritual undulations continued to spread. Very soon, Hui Yuhao found his target. He knew his limits very well during this surveillance process. Since the Holy Ghost Church's headquarters was in this forest, they would need resources. Furthermore, Radiant City was the core of the Sun Moon Empire. This was why their headquarters had to be closer to Radiant City if it was in this forest. The forest was fraught with dangers. To avoid any danger, it was best for the headquarters to be away from the core region. As a result, he was mainly surveying the perimeter of the forest facing Radiant City. And indeed, he quickly found a lot of people who were hard at work. They were too obvious. They were moving too many resources out, piling them up in a plot of empty land. After this, these resources were put into spatial storage-type sold tools by specialized people. It was unknown how many such storage-type sold tools they had. After the plot of empty land was fully filled, the resources were quickly put away. After that, they started to move resources once again. Hui Yuhao's first guess was that the headquarters was underground. This was because all the resources were being moved out from underground. He moved his spiritual detection downward. Given his current spiritual power, seeing underground was not an issue. As he ventured deeper down, he was suddenly astonished. What kind of project is this? Below the forest, there was a construction that was similar to a palace. This underground building was more than 1,000 acres wide. It was made from granite and was furnished with all kinds of decorations, making it appear very elegant. There were around 1,000 people in this building right now, and most of them were busy. Among them, many were relatively weak, only having between 3 and 6 rings. However, there were still 100 to 200 people with rather strong cultivations. They were commanding the weaker ones, who were moving the resources. Hui Yuhao didn't even need to check to know that he had found the correct place. Apart from the Holy Ghost Church, who else would be so wealthy? From the resources that were being moved out, it was clear that there were rare metals, mountains of gold soul coins, and valuable treasures. Their worth was immeasurable. Although their wealth couldn't compare to the Sun Moon Empire, they were still as rich as Shrek Academy. These evil soul masters must have stolen and robbed all these items. Alright, this is great. If he couldn't verify this was the correct place just from these material items, Hui Yuhao's suspicions were confirmed when he found Zhong Liwu and Feng Ling among the crowd of people. Nangong Wan was also there. There were also many other familiar faces. This was the place. Zhong Liwu was watching grimly as his people worked. He asked Nangong Wan, "Is there any news from the Supreme Elder?" "Not yet. She hasn't brought back news even though she left in the morning." Nangong Wan answered respectfully. Zhong Liwu furrowed his brow and said, "The last batch of resources have all been moved. Our people are also back too. Once we transport this batch, we can temporarily seal the exit. We'll come back when we have the chance. This is the foundation of our church. We'll definitely be back one day." Nangong Wan nodded and replied, "We'll definitely be back." "Sect leader, when will we leave?" Zhong Liwu replied without any hesitation, "We'll immediately leave after we put everything away." Nangong Wan was stunned. "Aren't we waiting for the Supreme Elder and Elder Long?" Zhong Liwu shook his head and replied, "No. She told us not to wait for her. I wonder what she's thinking. Since the Sun Moon Empire has already fallen out with us, why is she not instructing us to take revenge on them? Given her powers, how can they possibly stop her? I'm not afraid for her safety. We'll leave immediately after we finish packing. Our people are our foundation. We just need to escape and accumulate our power before we'll rise again." "Yes." Nangong Wan respectfully acknowledged. Here, Zhong Liwu was the one in charge. Nangong Wan could only listen to instructions. At this moment, Feng Ling and Zhong Liwu lifted their heads at the same time and looked into the sky. Their expressions changed slightly. Nangong Wan and the other elders were slightly slower in reacting, but they also lifted their heads after a while. As title Dolor, their senses were very acute. The huge pressure that had suddenly appeared in the sky certainly caught their attention. How was it possible for them not to sense it? They were frantic when they sensed the terrifying pressure. The origin of this pressure was also unknown. At many times, the unknown was the most terrifying. At Zhong Liwu's command, a barrier of light immediately rose, engulfing all the evil soul masters within it. The Sun Moon Empire wasn't the only one with linked defensive barriers. The Holy Ghost Church had been their national church for a long time. They also had their own ways of preserving themselves. In addition, this was their headquarters. The sky slowly turned dark. Huge clouds started to gather. The weather seemed to turn chillier too. "I'll go up and take a look," Feng Ling said. Zhong Liwu pulled Feng Ling back and shook his head at her. They are not from the Sun Moon Empire. Soul engineers can't put this kind of pressure on us. There are very few people in the continent who can unleash such terrifying pressure. Send a distress signal. Distress signal? Towards it. Feng Ling was astonished as she looked at Zhong Liwu. Zhong Liwu nodded. In the next instant, a bright golden flame rose into the sky. After it burst in the sky, another beam of golden light shot further up into the sky. It burst too, and turned into a golden umbrella which hung in the sky, only fading slowly. A beam of white light descended from the sky. It wasn't considered very strong. However, the expressions of the evil soul masters changed a little when it appeared. This was because the pressure that was being blocked by the link defensive barrier got stronger. It was even much stronger than before. Kai? Before the link defensive barrier could even stop the white light, it had already been penetrated. The white light struck down. Zhong Liwu was the first to retreat. He fled far away. The difference between the Holy Ghost Church and Shrek Academy was that everyone in the Holy Ghost Church only thought of their own safety whenever there was danger. They didn't think of anyone else. A boom sounded at this moment. It was as if the ground had been torn open. A terrifying explosion caused the sky to change colors. It was the Tang Sect Special Class 9 stationary shell, Tai-R. In the past, Huayuhao had once used this stationary shell to pierce a protective barrier in the Sun Moon Imperial Palace. How could a protective barrier by the Holy Ghost Church possibly stop it now? After the barrier was penetrated, it didn't collapse immediately. The huge explosion that ensued happened within the region of the protective barrier. Even a titled Doluo had to fear a Class 9 stationary shell. It was the most expensive weapon in the world. It was an important reason why a soul engineer could be stronger than a soul master. The explosion lasted for more than 10 seconds before it slowly faded away. When Zhong Liwu crawled up from the ground, all he saw was a land wrecked by a devastating explosion. Many rare metals had been melted, and many resources had been vaporized. What hurt him the most was that many of the lower to mid-tier evil soul masters had disappeared without a trace. There was no other possibility, given the magnitude of this devastating attack. Who is it? Who's capable of finding this mysterious place and using a stationary shell on it without any hesitation? Sun Moon Empire. It has to be Xu Qianran. Zhong Liwu had already turned pale green. He regretted not listening to his mother and evacuating the lower to mid-tier soul masters first. To save time, he made them all move the resources out. No one with less than 7 rings could survive this explosion. Even those who had 7 rings or more needed some subconscious help from the evil titled Doluo to survive. The Holy Ghost Church's defense was normally not so lax. However, they had dismantled a lot of their defenses because they had to move their resources. Who would have expected someone to attack at such an opportune time? Didn't Mother go to Radiant City? How is it that the Sun Moon Empire is able to attack this place? Furthermore, how did they know we're here? The place was still burning. The protective soul barriers were completely wrecked. The region that was blown up was completely charred too. Less than 100 evil soul masters had survived this explosion. Soul tools. This was the strength of a soul tool. More terrifyingly, this huge explosion had completely destroyed the future of the Holy Ghost Church. Zhong Liwu gritted his teeth, and his eyes turned red. However, following this, he felt the original burning temperature disappearing. What replaced it was extreme cold. It was snow. Snowflakes were falling from the sky. The dancing snowflakes resembled penguin feathers. The hazy clouds were surrounded by snowflakes. Very soon, the earth turned white. Even the charred region was covered by snow. The residual temperature of the ground seemed to be useless against these snowflakes. The snowflakes didn't even melt. Huayuhao drifted in mid-air like a sovereign watching his world. He held Tang Wutong's hand, and his spiritual detection had already covered a large area around him. The reason why he had used Tai-A wasn't because he thought he couldn't deal with these evil soul masters. It was because he didn't want any loopholes. If any evil soul master escaped, disaster might ensue. This was why he had to be merciless if he wanted to get rid of all evil. Zhong Liwu seemed to sense something. After he got up, he immediately looked into the sky. There was a horrified look on his face. Right now, he felt as if he was being dissected and displayed in the open. As snowflakes danced, the air temperature fell dramatically. Less than 100 evil soul masters survived, and many of the survivors were injured. This was the strength of a Class 9 stationary soul shell. If one wasn't prepared to face it, it could be lethal. This was what had happened in the Doling Empire's Imperial Palace. Right now, the Holy Ghost Church suffered the same fate. An extremely chilly aura descended. Some evil soul masters inadvertently touched those snowflakes and were shocked to realize that the snowflakes were not as soft and weak as they looked. They were actually as hard as rocks. One would instantly sense an unprecedented chill invading his body the moment he touched it. It was bone-chilling. It was as if their marrow was about to be frozen right there and then. Soul masters were stronger than ordinary people. However, even a titled Doluor couldn't survive for long when the temperature was negative 150 degrees Celsius. As the snowflakes descended, Zhong Liwu immediately knew who had come. What left him depressed was that this person's ability seemed to be stronger than it was in the previous fight. What? How is he able to grow so rapidly? Why is he so terrifying? How did he find this place? Scatter, flee! Zhong Liwu shouted. He suddenly increased his speed and charged deeper into the forest. Feng Ling followed closely behind. At this moment, a clear white halo fell from the sky and engulfed all the evil soul masters. None of them were left out. Can you escape though? The snowflakes turned into terrifying, sharp weapons. As they danced in the air, they turned into sharp blades. These blades critically hurt the evil soul masters. Light projections fell from the sky. There were snow fairies, jade-green snowflakes, and even giant bears. A massacre began. It was the snowy dance of ultimate ice. This was the true, perfect version of the snowy dance of ultimate ice. Even the Snow Empress couldn't unleash it to such a standard. This was because Hui Yuhao's snowy dance of ultimate ice fused the domain-type abilities of both the Ice and Snow Empresses. It combined their strengths. Under such a low temperature, only someone who possessed ultimate ice could adapt. The Snow Empress, Ice Empress, and Ice Bear King all descended. Once Hui Yuhao's second soul core was completed, they were all able to make great use of his strength. It was as if they were as strong as they were before. No evil soul master could block their attack. Not a single one. All of them were like helpless little kids as they were continuously turned into ice statues or crushed into powder. The white halo that fell from the sky was Hui Yuhao's mass enfeeblement. There was no one else in the continent right now whose spiritual-type soul skills were as terrifying as Hui Yuhao's. The whirlpool-like soul power generated from his yin-yang complement soul cores ensured that every soul skill was of two different types, spiritual and ice. As a result, every evil soul master didn't just feel weak when Hui Yuhao's mass enfeeblement struck them. They also felt a chill that invaded their spiritual seas. It was as if their consciousness was being frozen. The two ultimate Doluor of the Holy Ghost Church were no longer around, and Hui Yuhao had already killed many of their transcendent Doluor. The ones who remained weren't that strong. Right now, they only wanted to flee. They wanted to escape from this terrifying hell of ice and snow. Singing voices rang out, and the Princess of the Sea began singing in the air. Icy blue halo spread out. It was an enhancement that the Star Anise mysterious ice grass brought to the snowy domain of ultimate ice. 5 spirits. It was as if there were 2 ultimate Doluor teaming up with 3 transcendent Doluor. Although they couldn't limitlessly tap into Hui Yuhao's strength, it was enough to deal with these evil soul masters. Only Zhong Liwu and Feng Ling managed to rush out from the snowy dance of ultimate ice as they escaped immediately. They didn't flee far away, but started to venture deeper and deeper into the forest. There were many soul beasts inside the forest. It was only by rushing in that they might possibly survive. Zhong Liwu didn't even think of resisting Hui Yuhao. His injuries hadn't even healed since the last fight. His Bone Dragon King was also gone. Right now, he wasn't in his best state, and the aura that came from Hui Yuhao's domain made him extremely afraid. Ultimate Dolor. This was clearly the pressure that came from an ultimate Dolor. He was very familiar with such pressure. He had experienced it from his own mother and Long Xiaoyao before. However, he hadn't expected Hui Yuhao to become an ultimate Dolor so soon. He didn't even have any intention of guessing right now. He didn't have the time. Right now, he only wanted to flee. He wanted to flee far away. He had to preserve his life first. Zhong Liwu was no longer young. However, he was still very concerned about his own reputation. The longer he lived, the less reluctant he was to die. Stop! A voice sounded from the sky. To Zhong Liwu, it was like lightning striking. Feng Ling roared, and flames started to burn on her body. The dark phoenix immediately rose. Strong flames burned everything around her, and thick smoke started to appear. Two figures descended from the sky. The flames that were burning the forest were instantly put out. Hui Yuhao and Tang Wutong were holding hands as they descended in front of Feng Ling and Zhong Liwu. When he saw them, Zhong Liwu's last glimmer of hope was crushed. Yes, they clearly had the aura of ultimate Dolor. And it wasn't just one person, it was both of them. Against two ultimate Dolor, how could they survive? Hui Yuhao said, out of respect for Elder Long and Elder Yi, I can preserve your corpses. Zhong Liwu looked at Hui Yuhao coldly. Do you really think you're going to win? You've killed so many from the Holy Ghost Church today. If we can escape today, we'll use every means at our disposal to turn Shrek City into a ghost city. Hui Yuhao laughed sarcastically. First, you won't have that chance. Second, if the Holy Ghost Church is so capable, Shrek City would have long since ceased to exist. You weren't able to do it in the past, and you won't do it in the future. Do you think Shrek can be poisoned by you? Tang Wutong let go of Hui Yuhao's hand. She took a step forward towards Zhong Liwu and Feng Ling. Hui Yuhao still had to control the snowy dance of ultimate ice, and his soul power was still being used by his 5 spirits. On the other hand, she was in perfect condition. Feng Ling attacked first. She couldn't take the oppressive atmosphere anymore. Dark flames were unleashed. They didn't spread this time, but formed a line of fire aimed at Tang Wutong. Tang Wutong laughed coldly, and a blinding ring of sunlight shone behind her. The sunlight was purplish gold, and it turned into a giant wheel of light behind her. Feng Ling's line of fire was crushed before it was even in front of Tang Wutong. This video will end here.